Hello and welcome to another Wind in the Willows episode review. This week it's a producer's lot. Absolute favourite of mine, love this one for many reasons. Very unusual episode in that it deals with a performance of the Pirates of Penzance by Gilbert and Sullivan. You could argue most children probably wouldn't even have heard of Gilbert and Sullivan, equally now and in the 1980s. But I was certainly one of those kids that did know about them, and I love that this kind of episode existed. Very, very great episode for many reasons, like I say. So let's delve into it. Press play right now if you want to sync up. Here we go right now. There we go. So I was first aware of this episode from the original video that it was on. Then if anyone had the Masquerade video from the original Thames video collection, I don't remember where I came across it, but I remember it was a second-hand shop, and it was when my nan was still alive. It was back in the, I don't know, must have been the early to mid 1990s, and I was collecting the videos, and this is one I'd never seen before, and I wasn't aware it existed, and I was so excited. I was like, wow, yes, I've got to get this. And when I saw the episodes listed on the back, a producer's lot, this one was the first one, and along with Winter Haunts and Fancy Dress. And in Fancy Dress, there's a nod to the Pirates of Penzance as well, funnily enough. But this one, yes, as it said on the video, it was a performance of the Pirates of Penzance in the grounds of Toad Hall. And I was really excited because I knew what the Pirates of Penzance was. I was part of a theatrical group at that time, an amateur dramatic society with my parents, and they did a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan. My first production on stage was the Mikado back in 1991, and I was age 10, and both my parents were in it as well. And that was my introduction to Gilbert and Sullivan. So. But I wasn't actually in the Pirates of Penzance till much, much later, in 2016, in a totally different group, down in Christchurch, in Dorset. And I played the Sergeant of Police, which is the part that Toad ends up playing in this episode. So I love Gilbert and Sullivan, and again I love that this episode exists. It's directed by Barry Purvis, who is equally a huge admirer of Gilbert and Sullivan, and of course, I think I said before, when I worked with Barry, I got into theatre again, and it's thanks to him he enticed me to do it again, and I'm very, very glad I did. Anyone who knows Barry's films will know that he did a fantastic film all about Gilbert and Sullivan themselves. It's called Gilbert and Sullivan, The Very Models. It was actually a series of short films, and it's available on DVD as a whole, and it works really well either way, and it's a wonderful film. And I remember speaking to Barry about this episode when I first met him, or in my work experience at Cosgrove Hall, and I discussed this episode with him a little bit, and it's basically wonderful that the Animals wanted to put up a production of something that was of the period. Gilbert and Sullivan, of course, were in Victorian times, but in Edwardian England they would have very much been popular. But yes, we'll get to that's the climax of the episode, but we'll get to that. I should talk about what we're seeing really. So we've opened here, of course, in the grounds of Toad Hall, where the friends are kind of discussing the idea of Pirates of Penzance as an anniversary production for Badger. It would be his 25th, and they're all trying to entice him, trying to encourage him to do it, and Badger's saying it's so much work. But Toad, of course, is really excited by the prospect of it. And in the end, of course, Badger says yes. Interesting to note the time of year. I've selected it now because we've got through all the harvesty type episodes, and it is autumn, and it's quite nice weather, as you can see in this one, and the weather was actually nice today here in Essex. So yeah, October, sometimes the way, isn't it? We had a have a very damp September, and then we get into October, and it's actually quite nice again. That's often the case. So we've got Toad sort of showing off here, sort of trying to decide which part he should play. Obviously, he's got a big part. He's been the usual boastful self that he is, and then like there, he's realising he's going a little bit over the top, listening to the voice of authority, as in Badger. And Badger's already saying, right, okay, we'll start rehearsals next week, so very quickly there. Not long, he needs to go away and think it all through. So this episode, like I say, it is an unusual one in that it's not about a craze for Toad, although he does treat this like a craze. It's about all the animals, the characters coming together. It's a community thing, and I love that transition there. And it is very much one of Barry's episodes in that it's very theatrical. It's very using effects like that with little models, little scale version of the set. I love Toad's expression there. And Mole here, he's basically rehearsing the Major General song, which a lot of people would recognise even if they're not aware of Pirates of Penzance. I am the very model of a modern Major General. A real tongue twister. So Mole is already cast to play the Major General, and Toad is cast to play the Sergeant of Police. And anyone who knows the opera well will know that the Sergeant of Police is, of course, a smaller role. But very fun to play, as I found out when I did it. Absolutely loved it. And as Ratty says, what are you up to? Toad is up to something. He's making out that he's concerned about Mole because he wants and feels he deserves the bigger role of the Major General. Ratty, of course, knows exactly what Toad is up to. And Mole, being the kind, generous fellow that he is, he says he doesn't mind if Toad wants it, but... And it's really nice that he's trying all these hats on. I think that's a lovely touch. Gives Toad something to do while he's trying to get away with this, and ending up with the policeman's hat on him. And there's a sense of urgency about the episode. I mean, obviously we know already that it's not far away, the actual show, and they're getting on with rehearsals, and I like that. There's a nice pace to it. It's certainly not slow moving at all. Always impressed when I see Ratty playing the piano. Yes, it's probably not the right notes, but it looks very convincing. Now this is nice. Even as a child, I of course recognised this quite straight away from the Mikado. It's the Mikado song. But like I say, most kids would not know that, but maybe their parents would. But again, it's Cosgrove Hall is how authentic they were, and how it doesn't hurt to kind of put in a bit of culture there. And it would, children can learn from this. Gilbert and Sullivan, of course, pioneered musical theatre, really. They changed everything. And as Barry said to me once, everything that followed, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Lawrence and Hart, Lerner and Lowe, all the great songwriters, Angela Weber and Tim Rice, the list goes on. They owe so much to Gilbert and Sullivan. They started, really, that tone of musical theatre, of mixing it with comedy, mixing it with pathos, I guess, mixing it with integrating song and story so beautifully. And of course, Gilbert and Sullivan are still performed today. I read somewhere once that somewhere, all the time, there is one production being performed somewhere in the world. And what a legacy that they left behind. Now here we see Mole's bedroom again. We saw it in Fire at Toad Hall. We saw it in Badger's Remedy, and I think I've forgotten your name. I'm sorry, but one of you, a regular viewer, pointed out on YouTube that that's the only time we see Mole's bedroom in those 3 episodes, and I think that is right. And I love it. Mole's going over his lines. He's getting quite stressed out. Bless him. And this is basically a montage, and I like how we see really great directing of seeing the score, the librettos of the Pirates of Penzance. That probably would have been an authentic photocopy, miniature of an actual one from the period. I don't know, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Sweet, I'll just have a drink. splash my water in. So we've gone from Badger to Ratty, and I like this, how just going through the long notes. I don't know if that would have been Brian Ibbotson, who worked with Keith Hopwood and Malcolm Rowe. He was like the music arranger, and according to Keith Hopwood, he played all the piano pieces. He was good at doing Les Dawson type mistakes. And my dad loves this one as well, because of course he knows Gilbert and Sullivan very well, having performed with me on stage. And we know this song. It's the great policeman's song in Pirates of Penzance. And he's getting all the lines wrong, or some of them right. But what he does in a moment, again, kids just wouldn't get here. So he's basically saying rah, rah, rah over and again. And that's because the basses in Gilbert and Sullivan sing rah, rah, rah. Or, to be more precise, we go rah, 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 rah. And the sergeant does as well. So I remember singing rah, rah, rah over and over again, while the tenors are going to enter, and of course the ladies join in as well. So the fact that they animated that of Toad just going rah, rah, rah is again a wonderful nod to the actual work of Pirates of Penzance, and being correct, and I love that. And again, another montage here of everybody getting ready. I love the detail. I love all the costume making going on, and the Weasels are involved, which is great. All the youngsters are involved. Again, it's got that community feel of everybody coming together to put on a show. It's got that wonderful artificiality about it with the set. I love that weasel dancing with field mice, who, as we know, most of the time they don't get on. Simple as that. But in this one they do. They all come together. Badger's got that great sense of authority about him, that great presence. He's the big boss. He's the producer and the director. Now, at one point, Barry did say to me he had to go away and work on something, and he couldn't finish it, and Chris Taylor took over the direction of this episode, and Barry actually said to me he was a little bit disappointed with the final result. And of course Barry's got, as all the directors, got such a great eye for detail and wanted things to be a certain way, and of course out of all the episodes this one would have meant quite a bit to Barry, having such passion for Gilbert and Sullivan. So I can only assume that what he had to do was obviously very important, some other project he had to work on. And I never quite knew what it was that wasn't done quite the way he'd hoped. I wonder if it was the fact that the characters weren't singing. They're miming there. The mouths are obviously opening, but all we got is a musical score, instrumental version of the score. So I don't know if that's that, Barry. If you can let us know what it was that disappointed you in the final outcome of the episode, that'd be interesting to know. I mean, I like it. I think it's a nice. It's all correct. We've got all the music, but yes, we haven't got the lyrics. I assumed it was because the actors felt they couldn't sing it or do it justice. I do know for a fact that David Jason hated singing, but of course in the songs that he sang, he does a wonderful performance of Toad and the Chief Willie. So this is Poor Wandering One from the opera. And it's basically just Ratty on the piano and Badger on the violin. It's nice. It's nice that Badger plays the violin. We don't really see or hear of that in other episodes, but we do see that he has a violin in the background in his living room. So it's nice that he's actually using it. Look at that set. Look at the way the waves are going around. Isn't that wonderful? And that would have been very carefully designed with cogs, I guess, or some sort of device behind there. Very much taken straight from the stage. They would have used devices like that, or still do today. Now here we go into the actual libretto of Pirates of Penzance. It's all absolutely correct. So in a sense, you can kind of get a sense of the actual story of Pirates of Penzance. Just even though all that was instrumental, you can kind of gauge what's going on. And the Weasels are, of course, the pirates. The costumes are fantastic, aren't they? A lot of them still exist today in the Cosgrove Hall archive, which is wonderful. There's Mole as the sergeant. Sorry, getting them mixed up. The Major General. And Mole actually speaks. As he says there, it's a glorious thing to be a Major General, and it's actually sung, of course, in the opera. And the Sergeant of Police certainly doesn't appear at this point. Badger's shocked that Toad's going to be something. Now, I must admit, I was never sure about this. I thought, well, it's lovely that they're doing it and making an announcement that it's Badger's 25th production, but why on earth would they do it during the performance? Why wouldn't they wait till either halfway or at the end? It works better for the episode, of course. But yeah, don't know. Let me know what you think. I always felt it was a bit odd. And Toad's police sergeant costume still exists. So yeah, when I got to play the Sergeant Police, I was kind of really proud and pleased it was that part. It was like I was Toad. And then, funny enough, a year later in 2017, the same society did a production of Ruddigore, and I wasn't going to be in it. But then 2 weeks before the show actually opened, they asked if I wouldn't mind playing a very small role, and it was a suit of armour. Someone actually in a suit of armour and then coming to life. And would you believe it, Toad does exactly that in the episode Fancy Dress, which I'll review when we get to it. It's a winter episode. So it was almost like I was being Toad twice. And then I was in 2 more productions following that. Last year, in 2018, I was in The Mikado, played Coco, a role I'd always wanted to play. And The Mikado is referenced in this, of course, as well. And this year, only recently, literally a week ago, or just over a week ago, I played Don Alhambra in The Gondoliers, which is the only other Gilbert and Sullivan opera referenced in The Wind in the Willows, would you believe it? In the Yuletide Entertainment, which I haven't reviewed yet, but will do. So I've now been, recently, over the last 4 years, in all 3 Gilbert and Sullivan operas referenced in Wind in the Willows, plus Ruddigore, Wellser in a suit of armour. You couldn't have written that, could you? It's just absolute coincidence, but there it is. So, yeah, while I was talking now, I should be talking more about this episode. Yeah, that was Toad basically announcing that, it's a wonderful announcement written by Ratty and Mole, and it's lovely that Toad's reading it, and I think that's really nice. Again, it's just a bit odd that it's just during the production, and Badger's obviously, regardless, it's very unprofessional, but at the same time he's very, very touched by it. And so I guess in a way they're not treating it too seriously. It's just a load of fun at the end of the day, and it's all the Riverbankers and Wild Wooders enjoying the show. But like, as he says, Badger said it's very, very nicely done. And I think it's the only time we've ever seen Badger in tears, or in tears of happiness, that you could say. I've seen him in tears of laughter before. I was going to say sadness, but he's happy, isn't he? He's very touched by it. 25 years. It struck me more than ever this episode. I've said already the pace, but it's a very good pace. I think it's got very great snappiness to it. I'm looking at something on the wall because something comes up in a moment that I recreated. I must show you it while this is finishing. That picture there. See, Badger's got that on his wall. Look what I did. I made my own one. Would you believe? During the course of my interviews that I'm doing for my research, I met with Terry Brown. He was the first person I interviewed. He was the designer. He'll come up in the credits, you'll see in a moment. And he had some prints of this, negatives, and I was able to blow it up and recreate the picture the badger had. I found a frame in a charity shop, and it was just right for it. So that's what a super fan I am. So, yeah, lovely episode. So unusual, but I love that it's in there. I love that we've got one that's really focused on Gilbert and Sullivan. There are, like I say, a couple of others I haven't reviewed yet, Fancy Dress and the Yuletide Entertainment. But yeah, this is the big one, and I just love it. And again, you've got Scott Joplin as well referenced in The Wind and the Willows, which is of the period, so they really did their research. Funnily enough, Scott Joplin is in Piano Roll Toad, which I'm also reviewing today, as the bonus episode, so look out for that. But yeah, let me know what you think of that one, Producer's Lot, really great one. And Barry, if you are watching, please do enlighten us, let us know your memories of that episode. It must have been a special one to you, as I know full well how much you love Gilbert and Sullivan. And if anyone doesn't know much about Gilbert and Sullivan, do look into them. Barry has always said that the Mikado is the one to look out for. If you're ever going to watch one, watch the Mikado. Look on YouTube, or get a DVD, or just listen to it. It's a superb piece of work. It really is. So funny, even today. They'll never date. So there we go. Yeah, love that one. It's got a great vibe to it. It's just a happy episode. There's no menace in it. The weasels are in it, but it's where they're actually just having fun and being part of a big production. And I just really like it. So there we go. So as we head further and deeper into autumn, into October, we're going to go into those deep, if you like, if that's the right word, autumn episodes. Next week it's Bankruptcy, which is another one of those episodes where the weasels dress up as somebody else and try and cheat Toad. So we do have a few of those. It is similar to All for Sale and Bricks and Mortar, which we'll review in winter. But yeah, I do like it though. Bankruptcy is a great one, a very funny one. And it's an interesting one where a song was written for it and it's available on CD, but it was never actually used. If any of you got the soundtrack Songs and Music CD, there's a song on there called When I'm a Millionaire, and yeah, it was never used. It's a great song though. So there we go. That's the review for today. Thanks very much for watching as always, and I've got a lot of comments to reply to, and I will do, I promise. I've been very busy with the show I've been in and work and all sorts of things. As you know, many of you, I was late with Fire at Toad Hall. That was due to some technical issues. I'm doing a lot of travelling back and forth at the moment, but I'm sticking with it, and I'm really enjoying it, and hope you are too. Please do join me for Piano Roll Toad, and of course next week for Bankruptcy. All the best, thanks a lot, see you soon.